Thank you for grabbing your ingredients. For our first experiment, instant snow, you will need 3 ingredients: water, baking soda, and just a little bit of salt. I have about 4 teaspoons here of table salt. You can use table salt, rock salt, whatever you have. Before we get started into the experiment, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the science behind baking soda. In the world of science, there is something called a pH scale. This pH scale tells you how acidic or basic an item is. Water is in the very middle of that scale. It is a 7. Right smack in the middle of the scale, water will dilute everything. Up near the top of the scale, you get to lemon juice and orange juice. And now down towards the bottom of the scale right there, you get detergent and baking soda. Baking soda causes bubbles in your cakes and cookies, and that is what makes them puff up, is the basic baking soda reacting with the rest of the batter, which is more acidic than the baking soda is. This is what causes your cakes and cookies to puff up, is this little thing right here. Baking powder can also have a similar effect. That's why a lot of recipes call for both. Today, sadly, we will not be making a cake, but we will be mixing a lot of this with the salt and just a few drops of water to create some instant snow. As you can see here, I have some baking soda. You can use anywhere from 2 to 4 tablespoons, or even more than that if you want more instant snow. I'm going to go ahead and add regular old table salt to the baking soda to give it some texture. And I'm going to make sure that I mix it up before I start adding the water. Now that I have the salt and baking soda all mixed up in a homogeneous mixture together, I will start adding water. To make your instant snow, you will add a few drops of water, mix it, add a few more drops of water, mix it again, and rinse and repeat until you get your desired snow consistency. Alright, and it looks like I'm just about done with my snow mixture here. You'll be able to tell when it looks like snow. If you want some extra snow ambiance, you can put it in the fridge for a little bit to make it cold. But you need to make sure that it's a little bit flaky. You can pick it up and that it will mold to your hand if you squeeze it. I hope you enjoyed our first experiment. It's now time for our second experiment, picking a piece of ice up with just a string. And no, we're not tying it around the ice. All we're going to need is string, 1 piece of ice, and a little touch of salt. You can use just a pinch. And as always, before we begin the experiment, I would like to tell you just a little bit behind the science of what we're about to do. Now, for this experiment, we need the salt because the salt will break down the ice and make it melt. You see, in our world, everything is made up of atoms, and these atoms are bonded together. Water is hydrogen and oxygen that are bonded together. And when those bonds get really, really cold, they stay really tight and straight, so they'll stay solid. That's what ice is. And then when it melts, those bonds loosen and it turns into water. We will be using the sodium chloride which is salt, to break down the bonds of the ice and turn it to water. Let's get started. All right, so first I have about 3 cubes of ice in there, and our string will not just pick up the ice by itself. We need to give it a little bit of help. I'm adding water here. Make sure your water doesn't completely overflow the cup. We don't want it 100% covering the ice. And then you need to find a good angle to lay your string down on top of the ice. Make sure there's a lot of string and ice contact with each other before you grab the salt. Once we do get the salt, I'm just using regular table salt. Make sure you sprinkle more than enough on your ice, and then immediately pick it up with the string. As you can see here, it works right away. For our last experiment, we will be making a snow cannon. You will need your instant snow from earlier, some tape, a cup, a balloon, some markers, and a pair of scissors. For this experiment, I have already cut the top off of my balloon. Make sure you have cut the top off of your balloon and tied it shut. And I have already cut the bottom out of my cup. So I'm going to put these away for right now. And before we start the experiment, let me begin by telling you just a little bit about the physics of what we are doing today. In this world, we live with gravity where things come up and back down again. Well, there are different kinds of force that act upon objects. There is gravity, which makes things fall. That will always act on the objects here on Earth unless you are under very special circumstances. And you will have kinetic energy from the balloon. Kinetic energy means it's moving up. So, let's move on to the science experiment so we can see the snow cannon launch off. For our last experiment, we have the cup, balloon, and instant snow. I've drawn a snowflake on my cup, and I've already cut the top off with the scissors. I just went around the rim using the scissors. It does not have to be straight, and cut it right out. And then I used a marker, like I said, to draw a snowflake on the side, just make it a little more festive for the winter. Now, you need your balloon. You're going to take your balloon and cut the very top off. Make sure it's wide enough for your cup. I have already cut a balloon to pre-fit this cup right here. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's big enough to fit my cup. It looks like it is. Yeah, that looks about right. So let's go ahead and get started. I did use a blue marker to color on the balloon as well, again, to make it fit the winter theme. You're going to open your balloon and put it right over the bottom of the cup. Make sure it's as flat as can be, and then you're going to go ahead and tape it. It's very simple. Thank you all for joining me on this snowy steam journey. You are all wonderful scientists. Don't stop trying and making experiments and being curious about the world around you. Mistakes just means you're halfway to the right answer. before we do our grand finale with our final experiment, I just want to let you know that we have so many books on science in the library. In the Juve science section, we have books on the earth and minerals and physics and chemistry, whatever you can think of. I'm sure we have a book on it here. Please check out some of our books. You can also check out some of our books online through Libby or Hoopla, which also have science books. Thank you all for joining me. This has been absolutely wonderful. One last part of the science experiment. This is our snow cannon. When we pull it down, it is creating potential energy, which is energy that's just waiting to move, and it turns into kinetic energy when we let it. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful winter.